Back again. Hopefully we'll finish up the midterm very quickly and move on to the rhetorical response. It's probably good we split it. Part 2 of the exam had specifically to do with Gordon Marino's A Life Beyond Do What You Love. And then the rhetorical response also focused on that essay. 37, to say that the topic of this piece you read is work in America, that's far too broad. He is not talking about work in America. It's much more specific than that. So even for a subject that's too broad, certainly wouldn't be a main idea. Down here, the types of detail down here, it's a quote. As a rational being, he writes, and there's a quote here. That's a quotation. By the way, minor details, page 69, get that straight, are examples, anecdotes, quotations, facts. And you want to distinguish those from major details. Now, occasionally a quotation will present a major detail, a big idea. And in fact, this probably borders on that. You can interpret it that way. And we'll discuss those issues of what's major and minor as we go forward. The type of emotive word that's used, what are you best at doing? Best is a superlative. You are best at something specific, one thing. Best always refers to one. 40, the type of transition, word but used in paragraph sentence there, it's but. But is always a contrast, that's D. And something like that you won't need to identify as we go forward, but it's good to know for your own comprehension, your own understanding of pieces. This is an anecdote here, the tale of Dr. Kitchen, slow-mo. It's telling us a brief story, and so that's an anecdote. The most appropriate inference that we can make about Dr. John Kitchen based on the text, not that our own prejudice or made up idea, but based on what is actually in the text, he should use his medical skills to serve others. We don't know that he's an excellent skater. He might suck. We don't know that he's lazy. In fact, that's an inappropriate judgment to make. We don't know why he's doing it. In fact, if you're skating, there's a certain amount of laziness you can't have. And this is definitely off the mark. He is to be admired for being true to himself. It's definitely going against the whole thrust of that essay, which is saying that we should have a life beyond what we love. So he loves skating. Great. That's not all there is to life. An obstacle, number 43, an obstacle critical thinking might be responsible for the pressure people feel to pursue certain careers because their friends or family approve of them would be conformity, C. And 44, people who disagree with the view that doing what you love should not be the most important consideration when choosing a vocation, who never question their own beliefs or demonstrating which of the following. That would be wishful thinking. I'm sorry, that would be conformity. I'm sorry. I'm juggling between several things. 43 is C, conformity. 44, I just move on to C, wishful thinking. People who disagree, don't question their beliefs. That would be wishful thinking. And 45, people sometimes hate their job but stay in them simply because humans naturally have a preference for the existing state of affairs. This is called status quo bias. And that 27 people didn't get right, more than half, which discouraged me. It was in the book. And status quo bias, I'm status quo biased. I'd much rather run a regular class and sit here and talk to the computer and talk to you all via email and everything. I find it strange. So that's very human. And then everyone, by the way, got 5 points, even though a few of you really didn't mark your text. Everybody, I gave 5 just to give the benefit of the doubt, because I figured if you didn't mark your text well, you got penalized by not knowing things. Now let's move into the other piece, the critical response. If you have your own copy and can look at it, there are all kinds of codes on it, and they are found mostly in that correction symbols and terms handout I gave you, which is also in learning materials if you've lost it. So let me find this other document for us. I'm hoping. Hang in there. There we go. And there's the rhetorical response. the rhetorical response, let me see, does that go up? I'll just go through it this way, I suppose. Gordon Marino's piece here. Here you just had to define the terms, and what I'll be doing is explaining everything. Now, from here on out, I'll never ask you to define a term, but you need to be able to do this to merely comprehend some of the things. I don't care who you are. There's probably going to be a word you encounter that you're not sure the definition. Well, you need to be able to find that through looking at the context and using an appropriate dictionary entry. And the only way to tell that is to look at the context. Definitions, ubiquitous, you got most of these. I want to point out where there are problems. Elitist, if you put something like of or referring to the elite, that is not a good definition. I mean, that doesn't mean you know what it means. Elitist is pertaining to a supposedly superior group. It could be a snobbery, many things like that. It's basically when he says that do what you love is elitist, he is saying that only the elite can do this. Only those who have privilege, power, prestige can do what you love. Most of us aren't able to do that. That's why it's elitist. Unenlightened, if you people put a definition lacking enlightenment, that doesn't quite make it. I mean, tell me what that really means. For example, lacking knowledge or understanding, without insight, uninformed is fine. A treatise is a systematic written exposition or argument, and some people just got the wrong word and put treatise. It is not an agreement or arrangement. It's a treatise, and it's a formal piece of writing that's presenting a point of view. It's systematic, it's well done, it's defined, etc. That's all I'll say about the definitions. Then you had to move on down and do some paraphrasing of this piece here. Now, there are codes that I put on your papers, and pertaining to, you might have seen them in a number of places, but PLAG means you copied words. Other than PLAG, there are some other problems, not just plagiarism, but echoes, where it sounds like the original text. Some of you have put EXDET. That means explain, give examples, give details. Here, you're supposed to present all the ideas in your own unique writing style, and that's a keystone of doing academic writing, is presenting others' ideas in your own language accurately. NIS happened quite a bit in this and the summary, where perhaps you presented an idea that really isn't there. When you're presenting ideas, you want to make sure you're presenting what is actually there. Do not over-infer, and certainly don't MI, which is a misinterpretation. Don't OS, that's an overstatement. What's there? And again, you have myriad and diffuse codes on there, and you can find them on the correction symbols and terms. And again, just like in class, if you're confused, ask me a question. The only bummer is you can't just meet me after class and talk to me at my desk. Shoot me an email. We'll clear it up. When it comes to paraphrasing, I will never ask you to paraphrase a block of text again, but you have to do paraphrasing in academic writing because, again, you're presenting others' ideas. You can only quote 10% of the time, so you're going to have to do a fair amount of paraphrasing. Now, what I'm going to do is just read a couple of good paraphrases. Note how different they are from one another. They present all the ideas, and you can go back and look at this again if you'd like later. But here's a good paraphrase, an A paraphrase. By the way, the grading on this was 10 points. You can do the math. A 9 is a 90. So I had some 9.5s, which is a 95. If you want to know how you did A, B, C, etc. Here's a pretty good paraphrase. Just because we like a certain job does not mean that is the only job for us. There are times we will have to do jobs we'd rather not do, and the ones that are most in demand. Maybe you enjoy running long distances and believe your fitness plan is a way of bettering yourself. If your higher goal is fairness and equal opportunities, you might find it of more importance to dedicate some time teaching kids instead. That was a good one. Notice how different this other one is. This is part of the way I can tell if you copied somebody's paper. There's a lot of variety you can have in language to present the ideas. So don't be copying one another's papers on the subsequent assignments. I'll probably catch you, and then it gets ugly, and we don't want to do that. That's academic dishonesty, presenting others' work as your own when it's not. But here's another good paraphrase. The judge of our true calling should never be our wants. Notice both of these moved the ideas around. The idea sometimes we do what we hate, what most needs doing. That notion came first in both of these. Again, in good paraphrasing, you can move the ideas. After you move the ideas, then you rename the ideas, and now you have something that is original to you, presenting unoriginal ideas, which is the gist of academic writing. But going back to the paraphrase, the judge of our true calling should never be our wants. Thrilling as dashing for a finish line or finishing a workout regimen may be. That was pretty good. I thought it might have stretched it just a little bit. The details, you don't change what's going on. We're not talking about weightlifting. He's talking about running marathons. He talks about dashing for finish line. That's fine. That's okay. But don't change too much. If opportunity and justice for all is your ideal to be fought for, perhaps you should cut into your track time and spread your passion by teaching the disadvantaged. Denying yourself may seem hateful at first, but many times it's what you should do, and doing it at all is enough, or doing it well is enough. So that's some ideas on that. Now, when it came to the summaries, you had to do a one-paragraph summary. There are some codes there that I put on your paper, and they are referring to ideas that I've lost my thing. Hold on. There we go. They're referring to ideas in your summary that were missed. The overall idea of a summary is to take this whole essay and present the main idea, major details. That's really all you need. You'll be doing this 2 times more as the introduction to the 2 essays you'll be doing. So we want to get the summaries down. Some of you wrote more than you needed, and some of you wrote less, and some of you did both at the same time. Again, many of those paraphrasing quotes about NIS, not in source, MI, misinterpretation are there. In this essay, you could have messed up. 86-1 means it wasn't accurate. You presented some idea that simply wasn't accurate there. 86-2 is completeness. It's lacking the main idea and major details. 87-3 is conciseness. That means you presented more than you needed to. Again, all we need is the main idea and major details. Minor details do not need to be in there. Minor details, it's page 69 in your book, are things like examples. You don't need to be telling me about this man's father working hard. That's an example. You don't need to be telling me about students coming in thinking they're going to be wondering if they should be doctors or stand-up comedians. Those are very specific. And by the way, that's how you make your own writing interesting. Some of you don't write enough. You don't give me the examples and details. The only time examples and details, things like anecdotes, facts, quotes, are often minor details. The only time it's not appropriate is in a summary. From there, after you get done with a summary and you're doing other kinds of writing, you need to make it plain what you're saying. And that's what those minor details do. But in the summary, we strip it all out so we can see what are the big concepts. And having stripped out the big concepts, we can move forward and consider other things, how well those big concepts are being supported. That's part of what we're going to do from here on out. That's part of what you should have done in the other parts. And I'm here looking at my calendar, and my goodness, I'm about to run out. So part 2 of discussing the rhetorical response will come on the next video. Hang in there. We're not done yet. Bye.